In accordance with the last Hearthstone video I put out, I have been playing Hearthstone a decent amount in my free time, or like in between classes when I'm supposed to be doing work, whatever. Get it in when I can. But I've been familiarizing myself with the cards that, you know, I've missed basically 3 sets worth of, and I made it up to about mid gold. I think I'm gold 7 as of making this. And I've seen 50 ish games, maybe. I think a little bit more. Got my golden mage. Yay, me. Everybody clap for me. And I noticed that there was some pretty common decks like Denathrius Ramp Druid, Abyssal Curse Warlock, and those are two standout ones that I noticed that were a big problem. And a very popular combo that was in pretty much every deck was the Kael'thas, Bran, and Denathrius combos. Unless you were like a super quick aggro deck, you played those 3 cards, period. So I'm going to go over the 24.2.2 patch notes and give my opinions on it because holy shit, they attempted to do something, but by God, they fucking failed. So, standard card updates. The dev comment is, our top priority this patch was to make the meta feel more stable and more diverse. For that reason, we focused primarily on making a moderate number of high confidence changes this patch. We expect there will still be room for adjustment after this patch settles in, but we would like to take the opportunity to see where these changes land before making further changes. So, first of all, it's with these changes, it is incredibly ironic that they say more diverse because they have not only taken the Kael'thas combo off of the table entirely for almost every deck. So they made Kael'thas cost 8. So you can no longer play Kael'thas, Bran, then Denathrius. Which means that the only option left is for goddamn Denathrius Ramp Druid to be able to play it. They're the only ones who can exceed 10 mana. It is a combo that is only possible if you can exceed 10 mana. So now, not only have they taken away the combo from every other class in the game, they have given it solely to the one class that it was the most effective in because of Scale of Onyxia and similar large-scale board-filling spells of cheap minions. Now, I was playing a version of a Denathrius deck with Mage. I'm not saying that it's a bad thing that they got rid of the combo. What I am saying is that it's fucking ridiculous that they still allow Druid to have it, because it was the most problematic in Druid. My Mage deck isn't really affected by it, because I didn't run Kael'thas or well, I don't run Bran now. I think I did when I showed the deck, but the point is, I don't run either of the 2 combo pieces. I simply have Denathrius. It doesn't matter to me. Denathrius is a good card, but it doesn't matter whether or not I have the combo. But the thing is, you've given a gun to the Druids and completely disarmed every other deck. So now we have to use whatever tools, no matter who you're playing, unless it's Druid, to fight the Denathrius combo. It's utter fucking, like, the most short-sighted shit I have seen out of this game in a long time, and I've been playing it for a decent amount of time. Like, near the end of the Forged in the Barrens and Northwind Keep, or whatever the fuck, the Alliance set, it was getting pretty balanced. They had pretty much every deck. It was mostly a skill-based matchup. Like, it's the closest to balance I've seen in a while. And then they do shit like this. So, anyways, enough bitching about that. Getting on to the actual changes. So the old Wild Heart Guff, the Battle Cry and Hero Power gave you a full mana crystal, giving you, basically instead of costing 5, it costs 4 in reality. And the hero power, instead of costing 2 and getting an empty mana crystal, which is still better than Wild Growth, it was pay 2 and get a full mana crystal, which is, in reality, only 1 mana to gain a fucking mana crystal. So not only does that damage their combo potential a little bit, it was a good change for the better. I would hope that they would see that Wildheart Guff and breaking a concrete rule of the game that's been there for so long, like having 10 maximum mana, a card that breaks that would be very problematic for a long time to come. But no, they decided to make Wildheart Guff exist anyways. If it were up to me, this card would not say set your maximum mana to 20. It would say something entirely different. They would rework it, and it wouldn't say set your maximum mana to 20. The mana in the game should never be able to exceed 10. If I use a coin when I'm at 10 full mana, I do not have 11 mana. Just because he chose Druid, he gets 20 mana crystals, or at least the option. That's fucking stupid. And it's not like they have to unnaturally accrue them with things like Wild Growth or their hero power. They still naturally gain a mana crystal every turn as well. So the ramp is insane. Overall, a change for the better, but it's not strong enough of a change for it to matter, especially when you've completely castrated every other deck of the Denathrius combo. I'm glad it's gone, but it's not really gone. You're just going to see a way more Denathrius Ramp Druids now that they're the only ones that can do the combo. So their comment was, Ramp Druid is one of the most powerful and influential decks in the game this patch. Yeah, no shit, like I was just talking about. Guff was a clear power outlier for the deck, so a change to Guff was the highest confidence change we could make. You have the confidence of a fucking beta, my guy. We still expect Guff to be a playable card, even more than playable. You could take everything away from this fucking card. The armor, the empty mana crystal, the draw card, the hero power, and 5 mana to make your maximum mana possible, your maximum possible mana 20 is still way over value, because most games do not last 5 turns this season. Okay, they last 15 to 20 minutes minimum, and I've had games that go for 40, 45 turns. I had a Warrior game that lasted almost 40 minutes. I was playing Warrior, they were playing fucking Ramp Druid. We literally fought to attrition, and he died to fatigue damage because he couldn't kill me, because all I did was gain armor and kill his shit the whole game. Like, I literally came up with a deck after reading these patch notes that is specifically meant to combat not Wildheart. That's meant to combat the Denathrius Ramp Druid deck, because that's all you're going to see. That and a couple of other things that really aren't even worth mentioning. So we still expect Guff to be a playable card, more than playable, with an important role in these strategies. But we hope that this change will make it feel like there is more of a cost to ramping than there was previously. You took the equivalent of a 4-foot ladder and took about 2 inches off of it. That is what you did to Guff. Edwin, Defias Kingpin. I had this played against me a couple times. This really isn't a buff or a nerf, in my opinion, because Rogue discounts their cards so heavily, constantly, that it doesn't really matter if this costs 1 more mana. And when you make something cost 1 more mana and then give it an extra attack and health, you're not nerfing it, really, unless it's a card like Kael'thas, which they didn't add any attack or health to, by the way. They simply made it cost more so the combo can't be done. You're just making it another at-value card. And because it's a rogue card, it literally doesn't matter. However, I don't care too much about this change. I don't think rogues are struggling too much. They have 3 or 4 deck options. Like, you can still combo super hard with Druid. With Rogue, you can still do the normal Rogue things, but there's also a really cool Rogue Death Rattle deck that I've been seeing floating around, and it's actually really interesting, and it's a solid deck. There's nothing wrong with playing it. It seems perfectly balanced, and there's counterplay. And that point on counterplay, I will get into that later. So the dev comment for Edwin, there has been a lot of attention on Edwin ever since he was buffed in the last patch, and rightfully so. Since his buff, he has been one of the most highly played and winningest. Is that a Charlie Sheen reference? Cards in the game, which made him an obvious candidate for a high confidence adjustment to Rogue. What the fuck do you define high confidence as? Because these are not high confidence changes. These are like the most run-of-the-mill shit that I have seen before across the years in any fucking Hearthstone patch. High confidence. You made it cost one more and gave it one more health and one more mana, or one more attack. It's not high confidence at all. If anything, it is bog fucking standard for what Blizzard does to certain cards. When we made the initial buff, Rogue looked like it needed some help, but now that these lists have been more refined, we think Rogue will remain a player in the meta, even with Edwin back at 4. Yeah, Edwin's a good card. Nothing wrong with it. Now, this is a little bit of mage bias on my end, I will not lie. I love mage, it's my favorite class in the game, but they just can never let sleeping mages lie. So, Magister Dawngrasp, excellent hero power, win con in a lot of situations if you can properly pace it and get your honorable kills with it. So the old one was deal 2 damage, honorable kill, gain +2 damage to your hero power. So you deal 2 damage to something, it has 2 health, now all of a sudden your hero power does 4. It gave you an advantage when it came to long play and damage or removal if need be. The new one is deal 2 damage, honorable kill, gain +1 damage to your hero power. Not a huge nerf, but big enough to the point where I see this being somewhat of a hit to their longevity when it comes to like attrition and fatigue and shit like that, because there's been more than one game where I've played Magister Dawngrasp, charged up my hero power over the game, and my hero power won me the game. So I'm not going to say it's an undeserved nerf. I am going to say, though, that it makes me sad, and I wish they would stop fucking with Mage. Because Quest Mage was great, and they fucking threw that in the toilet, too. And then this one blows my mind, because Skeleton Mage is literally, like, the most obvious choice that they had intended for Mage. I don't understand why they would nerf this when it's a perfectly balanced card. It's 3 freezes for 3 with a 2/2 minion every 2 turns. That is not unbalanced at 3 mana. You are paying for the card with the amount of times, with the amount of time it takes to activate it more than once. This sits on the board for a minimum of 6 turns, taking up a slot. So removing 1 durability from it, as well as not changing anything about it, it seems like mage hate to me. I don't understand why they allow this when you can have a card that says, like, trigger a fucking friendly enemy minion's death rattle. That used to be a legendary card's effect. Like, there used to be the Bug Queen in Hunter. That was her fucking effect, was trigger a friendly minion's death rattle. And now you just have it on, like, a 3-mana card that you can play, and you can do it more than once, whenever you want, targeted. So, it doesn't make sense that they're nerfing this. So the dev comment on these changes are, along with Druid and Rogue, Mage has been one of the most dominant classes since the last patch. Nightcloak Sanctum has been a clear outlier in the mid-stages of the game. Yes and no. I mean, you can freeze 1 minion. Every single game, people fill their board with minions. Like, there is no, I have 1 minion on the board, look at me go. No, it's my entire board is filled with 7 minions, how are you going to deal with it? Nightcloak Sanctum's not making a difference in that. And the scaling threat of Magister Dawngrasp's hero power has been the dominant in the endgame. I will not deny that, like I said, that hero power, really good. It can win you games. I don't think it's unfair to say that. These two standout cards were the most obvious targets for tuning down the deck's power level and should also make the class less frustrating to play against in the mid to late game. Okay, but the whole fucking point of Mage is mid to late game. Okay? You don't get mad about a Hunter being really good in the early game. It's what the class does. Being upset that Mage is good in mid to late game is the equivalent of being mad that a car has wheels. It's made that way on purpose. People know that's what it's for. Why the fuck are you getting mad about it? If you want to play something that can compete with a Mage mid to late game, don't fucking play something like a Hunter or a Rogue. Even Rogues have mid to late game. It depends on the Rogue deck. But they have more early game options, so let's just use them for the sake of argument. Don't play a Rogue or a Hunter if you're worried about mid to late game play. Because the whole strategy for Mage is to stall you out and try to control you in the early game until they can get to the point where they basically have you on lockdown. So, fucking with their mid to late game completely defeats the purpose of the class. It makes no sense. Anyways, on to a well-deserved change in my mind, and I also do like Hunter. I like Quest Hunter a lot. I thought it was a pretty decent deck. The only problem is you're getting your Tavish too soon. Like, the restrictions on Tavish were very low. It does not take... I've seen people get Tavish at, like, turn 4. It's not that hard to do. So, hopefully this changes it to, at the very least, getting Tavish at turn, 5, 6, maybe 7, depending on how the game goes. So, the old first part of the quest was deal damage with 2 spells. The new one is deal damage with 3 spells. It slows it down by 1 spell. A fair change in my mind, nothing too crazy. It doesn't seem like it's going to nerf the deck very much. Also, I haven't seen maybe more than 2 or 3 Quest Hunters in 50 to 60 games. So, it's not exactly hurting a large amount of people who are playing the game right now. Dev comment on this is, Quest Hunter is a frustrating deck to play against and was poised to be a powerful meta contender after the changes to the other classes. This change is both to address the deck's current state and anticipated relative power level after this patch. I mean, fair, I guess. This basically turns Hunter into Mage, but with beasts. So, I mean, I can understand wanting to delay that by 1 spell. I don't think it's going to hurt the deck too much. Obviously, any type of speed nerf is going to be an issue for any deck whatsoever. The faster you can play your stuff and get to where you want to go, the better. But this could have been a lot worse. Now on to the actual, frustrating part of this patch. Kael'thas Sinstrider, he used to cost 6, now he costs 8. A fair change in my mind, because now you can't play Kael'thas, then Bran to double Battle Cries, and then Denathrius to deal double however much you've infused your Denathrius. It makes sense to remove that combo from the game, because almost every deck was running it. If not, you ran some type of weird version of a deck that probably still had it in there. The dev comment on this is, Kael'thas, Bran, and Denathrius have appeared together as a package in a variety of decks. Absolutely. Pretty much everywhere. To address the specific interaction between these 3 cards, we felt the best solution was to add 2 more to the cost of Bran, was to add 2 more to the cost of the Bran-Kael'thas combo so that they can't be played with 10 mana. That right there is what I was talking about earlier. It cannot be played with 10 mana, but if you're a druid, you can have 20 fucking mana. The biggest problem with the 3-card combo was druid, so they haven't fixed shit. They've simply disarmed other players. We preferred to change Kael'thas over Bran because Kael'thas is being used primarily for things like this combo, while Bran has other interesting use cases too. That's completely fair to say. Bran's been a staple in the Hearthstone standard card set for a long time. Bran is not a problem. If Bran is causing problems, it's cards that are interacting with Bran that are causing the problems. Bran is a balanced card. It's one of those things like where if you have a card that performs perfectly fine for years on end, and then all of a sudden you release a new set and it's the problem, it's not the fucking problem. It's the cards in the set that are interacting with it and allowing it to do whatever is the problematic behavior that need to be looked at and dealt with accordingly, not Brand himself. And that goes for a lot of cards in the standard set, which after the standard set or the classic set overhaul / rework, I did personally think that it was, quite a bit more healthy overall for the game. Smothering Starfish, who gives a flying shit? I think the only time I've ever seen this is in Quest Priest. The old one was cost 3, now it costs 4. No changes to health, no changes to attack. The ability's the same. There's not a whole lot to be said here. The only time I've even had this played against me effectively was against my mage deck when I had a board full of skeletons. I mean, for 3 mana, so what? I guess I understand. I would rather them keep it 3 mana and lower its health by 1 or 2 rather than increase the cost, because you've got priest cards like Shard of Naru that are 1 to silence all enemy minions. They just don't come with a body attached to it. So I think that this is a change in the wrong sense. But, there are other options as well. So who really cares about this one? The dev comment on the Smothering Starfish was living up to its name a bit too much. The goal for this card was for it to be a strong tech card, but the cost to include it in your deck was low enough that it was acting more like a staple than a tech card. Well, there are going to be staple neutral cards. You made the set. You know what's going to be good and what's not before you put it out. That is just it's, again, poor fucking foresight, super short-sightedness. You should know that something is going to be a staple, or if it's going to be used very sparingly in very specific instances. It's not that hard to see in playtesting. Like, do they playtest these sets? I have to imagine they do. And if they do, are they having silver and bronze players playtest these? Like, how the fuck do you not see this shit in alpha and beta of the sets before you fucking release it? It blows my mind how something this small is something they need to address, but then I'll get to it later, but they don't address Warlock at all. So Starfish was also unintentionally snuffing out a variety of underrepresented decks. We think this adjustment will allow Starfish to be used as a powerful tech option, but will make it less generically ubiquitous. The above cards will be eligible for full dust refund for 2 weeks following patch 24.2.2. School Teacher got a small buff. It got an extra health. I think that this is a pretty solid card. I don't think that this needed a buff. I mean, I'll take it because I use the card, I guess, but I don't think it needed a buff. I thought it was in a perfectly fine state. So it used to be 4/3 for 4 with Battlecry. Add a 1/1 Noggling to your hand and discover a spell that costs 3 or less to teach it. And by teach it, it means when you play the card, when you play the Noggling, it casts that spell. And targeted spells can be used to target minions or players or whatever intended targets there are for that spell. So they buffed this to be a 4/4 for 4. The kind of quintessential item of equal value. And it also has what is basically an extra 2 mana worth of an effect. So it is still above value. It was above value before. It still is. It's a slightly better card now. I have no problem with it. I don't think that there's going to be too much complaint from anybody that School Teacher has an extra health. I don't think there were many complaints about anybody or from anybody when it had 3 health. Nobody gave a shit. It's about the spell you get on the Noggling, not the fucking School Teacher itself. So the dev comment is, when we initially changed School Teacher, it was the most played card in the game. We're partially reverting the balance change in order to make the card feel a bit better to include in decks, while still acknowledging that its power level at launch was a bit higher than we could or would have liked it to be. I mean, it's whatever. It could be worse. Paladin seeing a little bit of love. I've always said that they do nothing but suck Paladin, Warlock, and Druid cock in this game, and it seems like it is holding true. I mean, Alliance Bannerman was this way for like 4 sets, something like that, and now it gets a buff for some reason. It's already providing massive value to your deck. You shouldn't need an extra health on top of that. It should be a 2-1. Like, you are trading the health, 1 extra health, for potentially +7/+7 worth of stats on your hand. It doesn't make sense that this now also has an extra health for the early game, which makes it more difficult to deal with lower tier spells like Cone of Cold, for instance. So the dev comment, when we buff cards in underperforming classes, we rarely do it with the goal of immediately shooting the class to a 50+% win rate. Our goal is to make the game more fun, something we can accomplish by bringing the class up to a level where players feel like there is something worth exploring. With the focus on high confidence changes in this patch, the change we were most confident we could give Paladin was something we've seen before, a reversion to a previous balance change. What a surprise that last line basically means, we fucked up, we made something too weak, we're going to put it back to the way it was. Like I said, I still think it should be a 1 health minion, but at the end of the day, this doesn't affect very much. Like, you're changing tiny parts of a large moving vehicle that is a deck. 1 extra health on an Alliance Bannerman is not going to make whatever fucking Paladin deck you're trying to increase so good that everybody's playing it now. They're either they either gave a shit before or didn't, and they will continue to either give a shit or not after this change. Nobody cares. Nobody's going to care about this change. It will change 0 opinions. And then this is all Battlegrounds and Mercenaries, which I couldn't give a shit less about. So my last point to make is there were no changes or even mention whatsoever of Abyssal Curse Warlock. The problem with Abyssal Curse Warlock is that you are given a card that every time, or I should probably preface this by saying what Abyssal Curse is. Every time you're given an Abyssal Curse, it starts off at 1 damage. You can pay 2 mana to get rid of the spell from your hand. So the second Abyssal Curse you're given, it deals 2 damage to you at the start of your turn. The third, you take 3 damage at the start of your turn, and so on infinitely until they run out of curses to give you. So the problem is there is no counterplay to Abyssal Curse itself. Yes, you can pay 2 mana and get rid of it. However, if you are given it on the enemy's turn, you immediately take that damage at the start of your next turn. There is no, hey, I have a turn to deal with this, I have a decision to make. I would rather see the Abyssal Curse card cost 3, and you're given an extra turn to get rid of it, rather than see it deal immediate damage to you upon the opponent ending their turn. Because I've been dealt over 20 damage in 1 turn simply because a Warlock gave me 4 Abyssal Curses, 5, 6, 7, 8, that I couldn't do anything about. Now, there are bigger problems in the game, like Druid, but that doesn't mean you should ignore something that is, at its core, completely immune to counterplay. You are guaranteed going to take that damage, whether you fucking like it or not, and nothing you do, no matter how well you played the game, is going to change that. That's the problem for me. If it's, taking extra damage due to me sucking, or I misplayed 4 turns ago, or I simply didn't draw the cards to deal with this the way I need to, that's fine. That's a fucking card game. That's how it goes. But to simply say, I have played a card, you are now going to take 7 damage at the beginning of your turn with no chance to do anything about it, doesn't sit well with me. And mark my fucking words, Abyssal Curse Warlock is going to be on the patch notes in the future. And if it's not, play Abyssal Curse Warlock. Look up a deck. You are literally rewarded for playing the deck. You do not have to do anything fancy. You simply play the cards that say Abyssal Curse on them. And by the end of the game, you'll be seeing that winner, winner, chicken fucking dinner screen. It is ridiculous to have cards with no counterplay. That is my stance on that. There should always be counterplay. Even with the Denathrius Kael'thas brand combo, there is counterplay. There is Theotar. There is Mutanus. There is rogues with shitloads of hand manipulation. There are options to deal with what is in your opponent's hand. Like, let's say they have Denathrius, you can throw Mutanus out, roll the dice, and see if you eat Denathrius or part of the combo piece. That's fine. That's counterplay. That's still, in a way, balanced. And most people, if not everybody, really should have Mutanus if you're playing the game seriously. Everybody knows that Hearthstone is not a free-to-play game. It's free to download, but if you actually want to play it, you gotta fork over some cash. But that's the end of my rant, and thank you for listening, and if you agree with any of my points, which maybe I'm completely wrong, if you disagree too, leave a comment and tell me how much of a fucking idiot I am. I'm more than open to that. I am open to both sides of this discussion, but I know a few other people who play Hearthstone. I've discussed this with them, and for the most part, this is a shared majority opinion on these patch notes. So, anyways, if you enjoyed, if you hated it, whatever, like, dislike, give me a subscribe if you want to hear more, because I'm sure I'll do more ranting and rambling in the future. Comment whether you thought I was correct, incorrect, whatever. And yeah, look forward to more in the future. Thank you for watching, and have a good day.